That's my fancy dinner for today. And that's James's dinner. We're having smoothies with that. So I told you yesterday I was going to use the Rasam to make some sushi, and you see how I've seasoned the tofu and cooked it with that. And I used this and the tofu and the almond butter, and I'll talk about who, Quadrophenia Live, and the Doctor Who. So
it's a hoo-hoo.
It's a hoo-hoo. Yeah. So let's put our little hat on the camera so it doesn't get hot. And I'm gonna be fanning off my sushi so that the flies don't get after it, because the insects are really...
Well, they've taken off. So.
Yeah, since I guess all the rain and now there's sun and they're excited. Anyway, so I made 3. I should have brought out a roll so that you see how big, but if you make sushi you know how big a roll is. So I made 3 rolls today, and that takes almost a whole container of this. So that takes a lot of, so what I'm saying, these are total fat bombs, my nut butter sushis and seed butter sushis. I'm not kidding. And then so you mix the same amount, or I did, mix about the same amount of kimchi with the almond butter today. And then I mixed in, I used this scoop thing that I think is about, you're supposed to use 2 heaping tablespoons for a serving. And I have a scoop that I think it's about that, so I used 2 of those scoops of this stuff. So so I put the almond butter and the kimchi and the food processor, mix it all up, and then the food processor goes, it doesn't want to mix anymore, right? And so then I take it out and I put it in a container, and then I mix in the hemp protein powder, and then I get a perfect, it's not too moist. Otherwise, it's tougher to roll and it's kind of mushy. But you could see, looking at this, it doesn't look mushy. So that's what you're going for the texture. And I mean, you could, if you want a different color, like maybe you think, oh, well, that's not really a great attractive color or whatever, and if I use nut butter, that's a more attractive color, and maybe I want to keep that, well, just use brown rice protein powder. That'll work too. So, or, I mean, you could choose a different one, whatever. Anyway, I used some of this, and it didn't take much. You can see it took hardly any. Basically a serving of this to make all 3 rolls. It didn't take much at all. And so I made more than that, but so what I did is I put some of this in a little saucer, and then I rolled the tofu around in that, and then I fried it in the frying pan. That's it. Then I put some, so I smeared the nori seaweed with the almond butter, hemp protein powder, kimchi mixture, as you're supposed to, you know, just replacing the rice, right? And then, yeah, I set my other things here. Today I decided to use cucumber, tomato, the tofu, and the purple cabbage, because it looks beautiful, right? So we'll see how it goes.
The ones with the nut butter taste really, really nice. People love nut taste generally. I know I do. And it doesn't get much better than cashew nut taste.
Well, this one's not cashew, it's almond.
Well, that's almost as good. It's better than peanut butter. And peanut butter
is so delicious.
Awesome.
But I wasn't going to use this stuff because of the acrylamide, because it's roasted nuts that they use for this, which is too bad, because acrylamide, right? Let's do that. But James wanted us to keep getting almond butter because I can get this for, like, I got this container for $3.25. So I got.
What can you get acrylamide else from? It's not as though we're eating
coffee.
I know. See, that's if you're actually getting good
Chips.
stuff with it. Yeah.
So anyway, I would prefer to use the nut butters that are raw nuts and seeds, right? And so a lot of the time I have switched making from this to other things like tahini. I can get tahini for cheap, so that works too. And oh, I forgot to mention, you have to pour off the oil before you use it for sushi. So the oil that you pour off and a little bit of the runny nut butter or seed butter, you pour that all off into like your last container you used or whatever, and use that for salad dressing.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. And because you don't want mushy sushi. So
Mushy sushi.
yep. So yeah, these were $3 on sale at Superstore, and there's no net carbs added from this. It's 1 gram of fiber, 1 gram carb, so it evens itself out. And I mean, like I said, I'm eating less than a serving of that. I won't be able to eat all of these. I just want it to look pretty on the plate. That's a lot of fat. So, and with this, there's actually a fair amount. It's 2 grams of net carbs for 1 tablespoon of this. So you don't want to, if you're like, I'm doing the vegan keto thing, but I can't eat very many, and you know, it adds up, right? And then the carbs still add up, even, yeah. But I mean, some nut butters have less, and seed butters than that. But anyway, and some have more. You just have to watch. So anyway, I use this, and there's some net carbs associated with that, but there's so little on this that it's not going to add up the net carbs. Most of the net carbs in this are actually from that. So James, can I guess go ahead and talk about that, because like I have started watching that Doctor Who season 2, but I haven't finished it yet. And
I haven't finished it, and I'm not going to. But
yeah.
So you want me to talk about Who, and then you'll talk about Doctor Who after you've eaten some stuff. Yeah. The Who, Quadrophenia Live, with special guests, and they're fairly special, especially if you know a little bit about English music. The Who is Roger Daltrey, Pete Townshend, John Entwistle. They should have given Zach Starkey, Ringo Starr's maiden name. No, his real name is Starkey. So Zach Starkey's his son. He's playing drums, but he's not getting credit. Part of the Who. Anyway, so that's one special star or special guest. It's all further on the front. They got a guy called Billy Idol, who was somewhat of a hot item in the 80s. Eyes Without a Face, and he had Dancing with Myself. Was that another one? It was Dancing with My Face. I'm not sure, but he's well cast as Maud, even though he was a #1 item in 20 years after Maud. because the moths were really stuck on themselves.
Hello, woodpecker.
Are they asking for some food or something?
Oh, so cute. Well, no, I have food on the rail there. They can get it whenever they want.
Just communing with you. Well,
Yeah,
these woodpeckers, downy woodpeckers, are
they're
very
very friendly.
friendly, soulfully friendly. They will kind of linger when they're searching for food on your hand. They look in the eye and stuff like that. It's almost as though they care about you or something. Or maybe they can read that you care about them in your eyes. Anyway, Billy Idol and the mods. The hardcore mods, you know, who did a cover version, and it kind of turns up in here. It might have been one of the first would-be hits, called "I'm the Face." So that's kind of the attitude. Now a lot of guys who made it big in other things, Semi started out as mods. What were you going to say? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Anyway, an example, Rod Stewart. I think he maybe started off like Hoagie Carmichael. Then I think the sequence goes,
And that's good.
he liked folk music, and then he became a mod. So that's where he got the heaped up hairstyle. It was mod hairstyle. It looked as though they had a big bump on the back of their heads, top of the back of the top of their heads. And he stayed with that. I think it involved a lot of egg. Can you imagine mixing that up in your hair and then letting it stiffen up? Maybe a few other things. I don't know. Flour. What would happen if you mix up egg? Another one who's into the mod thing, never made it as a mod. David Bowie, dressing up and so on and so forth. Now the hardcore mods were wearing, as portrayed in this movie, were wearing, I didn't realize it until I watched this movie, that they were wearing army surplus kind of like coats or something like that. Hence the rather ugly green. And they'd have what I thought were bullseyes on the back of their coats, but that was actually the RAF, I almost said RCAF, the RAF symbol, so that's a Royal Air Force. So they were into fighting in the streets, and more on beaches, and actually some people got killed in these fights.
Put these away and I'll be back.
So, who were they fighting? Possibly with each other, but they generally liked fighting with what were styled as rockers. Folks who were into motorbikes and 50s rock. And they've got a guy in this movie called The Godfather, played by P.J. Proby. I don't know if too many people over here on this side of the Atlantic have ever heard of P.J. Proby, or even south of the English Channel, or as the French style it, La Manche. But P.J. Proby apparently was a real going concern when it comes to pop music. Maybe in the early 60s and stuff like that. Maybe in the late 50s. Didn't work out for him at all. Anyway, I thought he not the greatest voice in the world, but he's kind of portraying a gone to seed Elvis figure. He looks suspiciously like romping Ronnie Hawkins. So Rompin' Ronnie Hawkins started the band called The Band that backed up Bob Dylan for a while. Rompin' Ronnie wasn't part of that band, but there wasn't much need for him to be backing up Bob Dylan because he was the lead singer that formed the band. Anyway, he came up from Arkansas, brought his drummer, a guy called Levon Helm, picked up a bunch of Canadian boys. Some of them were real boys. I mean, Robbie Robertson was almost like in his mid-teens or something like that. Canadian, true Canadian, like Jewish and Indigenous Canadian mixed. And the rest is kind of like history. Anyway, PJ Proby, I thought he did a great job. He didn't have a lot of tunes to sing, but that's one of the weaknesses actually of this soundtrack or whatever. Pete Townshend during this, and maybe from this on in his career, both with the Who and solo, had lost a bit of his melodic sense. There's nothing like, let's say, Behind Blue Eyes on Who's Next, whose album from, I believe it was 1971. This, I'm not sure when the original album was put out, Quadrophenia. It might have been 74 or something like that. And some of the versions aren't that good, so 515, it's nothing by comparison with the studio version. I mean, the beginning of it is just not what you expect of the Who. It's like, why should I care? Why should I care? You know, it's really soft, and then you just have this disappointing but beautiful guitar kind of passage, and then the Who breaks in, but they did a very poor version of that "Why Should I Care." I think it's important for kind of expressing part of the character of this individual. He's supposed to be a composite individual, maybe a quadrophenic instead of schizophrenic. And don't get the wrong impression, you know, like it starts out with I Am the Sea, which is kind of atmospheric, all that sort of stuff. And then the Who slams into their greatest song ever. And everything's kind of like somewhat downhill from there, but it's called The Real Me. It's got some sharp lyrics, great guitar. And, you know, there's one guy I didn't like. He was in a band in town here. His dad was a professor. His dad was a pretty nice guy, but his mom was kind of a little bit standoffish. Very often guys take after their mom. This guy was kind of standoffish. I remember one time he was needling a friend of mine who liked classical music, but liked movie scores. Sometimes classical music, something else. Oh, he's making fun of my friend whose taste in music in front of other people. Just it wasn't though my friend was just out there saying, wow, you got to listen to this kind of stuff, it's superior or anything like that. Anyway, this guy had problems. It wasn't as though he had much going for him. He looked like his dad. His dad, I don't know. His mom was good looking, but his dad looked like a cartoon character out of The Simpsons. And his son ended up being that way. Maybe that's why he was constantly jabbing with people. But there are people who look like whatever, and they're nice. Just because you don't look like Tom Selleck or whatever, Paul Newman, doesn't give you the right to go around needling people. But I never had so much respect for him as when we were visiting him, and well, not so much him, but a friend he was staying of mine. This fellow was staying with, and I'd never heard Quadrophenia before. This was 1979, late spring, early summer. I was in Ottawa, dumpy kind of, seemed almost like a 3-story old place, and I was hearing this guy playing, trying to pick up the bass track from The Real Me, and I'm going, if that's the real you, buddy, you're better than what I thought you were. I don't know if you could play all of it. I mean, you look at John Entwistle. B.B. King, I think it was, told Randy Bachman, like, screw up your face. Look as though you're playing really hard. It's the Canadian way, and I guess to a certain extent the English way, not the Mick Jagger way, to not show it. You look at John Entwistle. I think they called him the Ox. You know how stolid cattle are. He's just there, and you just watch his hands. Incredible. He's playing bass with all 4 fingers.
Yeah, it's funny, how they do that, because like banjo players don't do that, and they're doing way more.
The thing is, you look at it. How do you get when you're hearing John Entwistle play the bass? It's like hearing the voice of God, and he's doing that with his little finger, along with the other things. And you should see him moving up and down. Now he might have been surpassed by Les Claypool with what group was he with? Primus. John Entwistle was the man for decades, and the thing is, he was doing stuff like on The Real Me. Like, you listen to Primus and it's like novelty music, and you're going, I wish someone. Why couldn't Les Claypool be playing with Bob Dylan or something like that? I don't know where it kind of matters. Or Beck, Beck might have sounded really imposing with Les Claypool playing behind him. I don't know. Anyway, there's some pretty good music in here. Nothing like The Real Me, but The Real Me, The Who never surpassed. And there's the Beatles surpassed The Real Me. Maybe on A Day in the Life. The Rolling Stones. Maybe on Gimme Shelter. I don't think the lyrics of Gimme Shelter hold a candle to the lyrics of The Real Me. And the guitar work on it is incredible. Like, it's especially just before the third verse, he's just chomping through chord after chord after chord. He's playing the same riff, basically, that he starts it off with, but he's just moving from chord to chord to chord. It's just hugely it's just totally unsettling. Unsettling. It's supposed to be that sort of stuff. But there's one of the things I get the feeling with these big things done by The Who is sometimes the songs are there to fill out the concept. So Tommy is that way. There's something called the underture instead of an overture. And I don't really think that much of Pete Townshend as a composer of instrumental music. It's just that way. I don't know, most rock and rollers just don't have the chops or whatever to do instrumental music. I can put up with Jimi Hendrix doing instrumental music, but the actual musical structures don't seem that good. He's just improvising, and it's so impressive that I can put up with the lack of structure or whatever. Anyway, there's stuff in here that seems almost like it's well done filler. Very well done filler. Same thing with Tommy. But if you look at Tommy, you'll just, if you think back on it, you'll think, if you've got any taste at all, and I guess I'm imposing my taste on you, Pinball Wizard, it doesn't start it off. There's some things with some good tunes and stuff like that. The highlight for me is a very short song. I don't think it even makes 2 minutes. And it's I'm Free. When I first heard that, I was just blown away. Because all it is a chorus, a verse, and a chorus. That's all it is. And they're not that long. But, how does it go? If I told you what it takes, the verse, to reach the highest high, you'd laugh, saying nothing could be that simple. But you've been told many times before, Messiahs pointed to the door, and no one had the guts to leave the temple. I am free. I am free. The chorus means something. They start with the chorus, then they take the verse. Why are they singing? And freedom tastes of reality. And I wish there were some people out there, because there are people sitting in their left-wing temples, their little echo chambers. Oh, I don't believe in God. Yeah, you believe in all sorts of stupid things. No one had the guts to leave the temple. That's what I'm looking for from people. People who move away from being like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off and all moving in the same direction, jumping up, all getting all excited, and they're dying. Stupid. Anyway, it's just like a remake. It's got live footage intercut with
scenes of
stock footage. Yes.
the ocean.
Well, there's that, but there's also history of England, going back to when presumably Jimmy, the character who's split up into 4 different parts, was born or something like that. So it goes back to World War II. It's a little bit like Tommy that way. Tommy starts with a kid who was born during an air raid and stuff like that. I presume these characters in The Who were, except for Keith Moon, Lord only knows, he looked like he wasn't even shaving when they first started making it big, 64, well, making it 64, 65. Looks as though
You know, it wasn't that warm, not in the sun,
Of
like,
course.
or when we were walking, but it's pretty warm.
Yeah, I know. I didn't come out with a coat on.
That was smart of you.
Anyway, so
It's gonna be too warm.
I don't necessarily recommend this to anyone except people who like, and especially people who love The Who, because there's some good stuff in here. The concepts for Tommy The Who, and really even for what was it called, Lifehouse, which just became The Who's, I think, close to the best album. Who's Next? They seem to be kind of like the concepts. You're going, well, I don't really grasp it, and it doesn't matter how many times they redo it or whatever. You know, the reason why Who's Next is so good is the Who just, or Pete Townshend, I suspect, had a bipolar collapse and couldn't put the thing together. So they had some awesome stuff in the can, and they put it out as Who's Next. The amazing thing is that album is so fantastic. The best song off of it, called Pure and Easy, that's Pete Townshend's best solo thing. The Who didn't do as good a version as he did, where he's playing all the instruments, doing all the voices. They didn't even put that on Who's Next. I have no idea why. It's not Pete Townshend's best lyrics, but the music is actually better than the real me, and it's not what you expect from The Who, which is just like the bass just hammering over the head, and then while the bass player's just keeping a total straight face, and then Pete Townshend hammering the blow in with his guitar chords and stuff like that. But Pure and Easy is just beautiful. It's like really light, pure and easy. Except right at the end, he throws in a couple of chords, and they hit you really hard, because you're not expecting them. You're expecting the big chords at first, and then you get it all pure and easy, and it's just but he trails off. It's back to the pure and easy thing. I don't know, maybe 4 chords, and that's it. It's amazing. But you can tell I love The Who. Once Pauline asked me, I know you like the Beatles the best.